Hey guys, it's Kate and I hope you're having a great day. I'm back with another video with another series of mini paintings, and like the last time I did not start out with a plan. I just started with my mark making, but this one ended up differently. I ended up with a bunch of little floral paintings, kind of abstract-ish, but definitely recognizable as flowers. So if you want to join with this project today, I did have it speeded up or sped up, speeded up, which is it? But anyway, I do my fine liner, colored pencils. I do grab a few stencils I have on hand with some different patterns and shapes on them, and I actually use a different stencil for each piece just to kind of mix it up a little bit, and acrylic paint. So if you want to join me, those are the supplies that I'm using today, but you can use anything you have on hand: paintbrushes, supplies, mark making tools, whatever you want. So I went through, did a bunch of scribbles with my pen and pencils, and I wanted to mix up some neutrals to kind of get started. One of the things I wanted to definitely do in this video is start off with some more neutrals in the background. And so you can get neutral colors by mixing complementary colors like blue and orange, green and red, and purple and yellow, or variations of those. So by mixing them, you can get different shades of gray and brown, and they can be really nice. Like, you can have warm and cool neutrals, and they really go together nicely too, especially if you're kind of changing your blend. And you can also add white to lighten them. And then I'm going in with some blue here, and I get kind of a nice, like, I don't know, I guess it's like a spackle color or like a putty. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I just really loved that color. It's just so nice. It's like fresh pottery. And so I'm painting over my stencils and marks and just trying to get it in different spots on each paper to see how I like the layouts, how they end up looking, and to see if anything kind of jumps out at me. And on the first one, I had started to see some florals, and then I ended up just embracing florals for all of these, but just a little bit differently in each one. So I'm still kind of going through looking for some more inspiration, and this is the one where I'm starting to cut in a little bit of flowers that kind of popped out at me from all the scribbles. So I grabbed my gesso and my silicone tool, and I'm just going through and taking some of that texture and marks back and bringing in some more brightness, especially on the ones where most of the white of the page was painted over. So I definitely want to bring some of the brightness back in, add a little bit of contrast back in, because those neutrals are just kind of very mid-tone. They're not really too dark or too light. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit brighter colors now. So I'm starting with that light blue, and then I'm also going to be bringing in some other brights. Now at this point, I'm just going back through again, blending in some more colors, and I'm actually going to do a second stencil layer, which I thought was really neat. It kind of added some extra texture, and actually for each one, I kind of went backward in my stencil order. So each one, I believe, got a different stencil than what I started with. But now is where I started to really settle into the flower idea. And so now for each of these pages, I'm kind of picking out places where we could have florals. But first I'm going to add some more pattern to the top of each of these, and I'm going to do it with that lighter color that I mixed. And it's going to be a second pattern on each page. And I'm still going to paint over it again, and I did allow these to dry a little bit between a couple of the layers. Although one of the really nice things about working on several pieces like this is that, once you kind of go through all of them and you get back to the beginning, the beginning one is pretty dry, so there wasn't a whole lot of wait time. Um, and there won't be as long as you're not too thick with your paint. If you have really thick paint on your paper, or if it's really wet with water or something, then it will take a lot longer to dry. But I didn't really have that issue here, so um, it did go by fairly quickly. Now in a couple of these, I'm keeping the flowers loose, and then in some other ones, I'm drawing in some vases and containers. Like this one's in like a little vase or round planter, and then these ones are just stems coming up from the bottom of the sheet. But I really wanted to experiment with having those sort of neutral and calm colors in the background, even with the blue a little bit, even though it's kind of a little bit more saturated color, but it's still kind of light, so it blends in with the neutrals pretty well. And then on front of all of that, you have those bright pops of more saturated color that isn't really mixed with a bunch of other stuff. Now, I will say a couple of these I didn't really care for. I kind of went a little crazy with the leaves, but I was having a lot of fun. I didn't really want to stop. Some of them worked out really nicely, and some of them just kind of, I don't know, you ever have something that you're painting and it just kind of gets away with you? You're getting all excited with your brush, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I did a lot more than I should have. And the one that we just saw was like that. So I end up trying to fix that a little bit toward the end, so it's not just this sort of big blob of unrecognizable leaves. But I'm keeping that in so you can see, because I mean, we all do some crazy stuff with paint, I'm sure. And I really liked how these turned out too, for the most part. And they were a lot of fun, so who cares? Um, these are great little warm up exercises, and they're small pieces, and it's really fun to do. I'm kind of glad I did some more of these again. I did enjoy doing them a few months ago when I was posting more of these, but I think I'd like to bring them back to the channel more often, because it is a great exercise and you learn so much about composition and how you like things to go down on the paper. And it's also a great way to experiment with color mixing and mark making and all those things where, you don't feel like you have to fill up a big piece of paper. Working small is really nice because, you have a limited space. And sometimes having those limitations really helps with your creativity, because it's it's sort of counterintuitive. I don't know if you've ever, heard about those studies they did where they would present like a customer focus group with a selection of, let's just say, jams and jellies, and they would give them like 100 flavors they could choose from, and people would get that analysis paralysis. But then you present like 5 or 6 flavors to somebody, it's easy for them to make a choice. And it's almost like when the sky's the limit, the world is your oyster, you have unlimited choices available to you. Sometimes you can really freeze and not make any choice at all, or not feel comfortable making a choice. But limiting anything, whether it's colors, size, materials that you're working with, any kind of limitation that you can introduce actually has the opposite effect. With those limits, you somehow can develop more creativity, because you don't you're not overwhelmed with too many options. And so I liked how these all turned out. I'm kind of pulling them into the frame, and I will do the close up so you can see everything. But overall, I think these turned out great. They were a lot of fun, and they're just little pieces of art that I can have now. And so they're going to go into my little collection box where I keep all of these. And they'll also serve for inspiration down the road where I can go back and look at them and say, oh, maybe I should do something like this, but on a bigger sheet or something like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video today. I hope you grab your supplies and try something like it. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep creating.